everyone, it's Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Show. And today, our special guest, he's a tertiary treasure. Well, what does that mean? We'll dive into that with our special guest, Rich Vaaler, as we explore brokerage in smaller markets on this Massimo Show. Hi, this is Rod Santomassimo, and welcome to the Massimo Show. The objective of the Massimo Show is to share how you can maximize your personal and professional margin. That's right. Let's make more money in less time. Let's turn chaos into clarity, confusion into confidence, and income into real wealth. Along with sharing my insight on how I grew a multi-million-dollar professional business, we will bring you expert advice from various authors, consultants, and industry leaders. We'll provide you the tools you need to build that commercial real estate business and life you have always desired. Welcome to the Massimo Show. Hey, Rich, welcome to the Massimo Show.
Hey, Rod, how you doing?
Great, doing great. Hey, Rich, there'll be folks out there going, hey, who is Rich Vaaler? Rich, give us a quick 15, 30-second summary of who you are, where you are, and what you do.
Sure. I've been in the business for 43 years. I'm a commercial real estate broker, but I think I'm much more than that. I've owned property, managed property, developed property. So I have a lot of facets that the typical broker in a single silo may not share with their clients. I've owned properties, like I said, in almost every category. So it gives me a perspective to help my clients. And I really like helping, especially older people right now, streamline their portfolio, their assets, and get rid of the complicated ones into simplified properties. And I love what I do. And I'm always trying to get better, always trying to learn more. And that's why I'm here with you.
Rich, I always ask this question for our guests, and that is, who was high school Rich Vaaler? Well, explain that. Who was that person? Where were you? And what were you like?
I was a scrawny little nerd. I played soccer, weighed about 100 pounds, and didn't know what I wanted to do. And I graduated and went to college to study marine biology, but that didn't work out.
So how'd you get into real estate?
Well, someone told me if you want to be successful in marine biology, you have to get a PhD. And I didn't like the thought of 4 or 6 more years of college. So I took an elective class in real estate. I liked it, switched over to finance. I got my degree in real estate finance from ODU.
What was your first then career move in the CRE space?
So I got a job with a big developer in the Virginia Beach area. They owned 4 office industrial parks, and they said, you're going to be one of our sales guys. I didn't know what that meant. I literally had, I told this story to someone the other day, a desk made out of a door across 2 sawhorses where the doorknob was taken out. I had a yellow pages, a phone, and a pen, and they said, call people and ask if they want to rent our warehouse space. That was my on-the-job training. It worked. I did cold calling, door knocking back when you could do that, and it really moved me to a better place and a more secure place in what I was doing and got confident with doing that. Then I got a job with Turner Development up in the Washington, D.C. area, and I built some office buildings, retail centers. So I expanded my career with a bigger company.
So at what point did you decide I'm going off on my own?
Well, the second company after that went out of business, and I said, I've had enough of these different companies getting smaller, downsizing, and I wanted to start my own. I was 30 years old, had no money saved up, no backing, just a great idea. It worked for a couple years. Then one of the other recessions we've had hit me. I got a job with NAIOP for 2 years, and they sent me to Tony Robbins for a seminar for training. They said, you have to go see this guy all day. Well, after that, I said, I'm going back to working for myself. I quit the next day, and that was in like 1992, and I've never worked for anyone other than my wife since then.
Wow, you saw a young Tony Robbins in 1992.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he had a lot of long hair. He was kind of thin. Yeah.
Okay, so you were incentivized by personal development and motivation speaker coach to start your own business. So how did that go? And where are you now when you start your own business?
Well, at that time, I was in Virginia, Leesburg, Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C.
Give me the size of Leesburg, Virginia.
Oh, 30,000 people. Small
30,000 people. Okay.
Not big. But
not big.
As Washington expanded outward, it grew and grew and grew, and I got more and more business. I ended up, at one time, I had 12 to 13 brokers working for me, 700,000 feet of property management. We did about $3 million a year for several years, 2003, 4, 5, 6. Sperry Van Ness contacted me at that point. I got a Sperry Van Ness franchise. I did that until 2013 and had some really successful years. Then 2010, 8, 9, everything kind of crashed. My company downsized. I got divorced, and I was a country song. I literally was a country song. And then,
what country song was that?
Well, your wife left you, your business went downhill. My dog didn't die, but everything else bad happened. And then a few years later, I re-met my college girlfriend, Gail, and we got married 10 years ago this Friday.
Oh,
so
congratulations.
That turned it around. And now I can say I'm extremely successful, financially well off, physically fit. I'm better looking. I know that. And I work back in a tertiary market, but I moved here because of her. So
let's talk about that. So you went through building your own company, building entire up to 12, 13 brokers, 700,000 square feet under management, recession 2008-9 hit. We all know what happens then, right? And then you get divorced, the business starts to dwindle, but you find your country music song, you find the redemption, you find your former college girlfriend, now wife of 10 years. That's a big jump. So what happened? What was the move? And where did you move to start your new career?
So I moved to where I live now in Stuart, Florida, which is north of West Palm Beach. And I work in the 3 counties that are Martin County, Palm Beach County, and St. Lucie County. They call that the Treasure Coast of east side of Florida. It's a big market. I think there's, if you count West Palm Beach, probably 1 million people in the overall market.
If you don't count West Palm Beach, how many really?
It's probably maybe 400,000, something
right.
like that. It's a smaller, maybe only 300,000.
That's the key, because I know we can count South Florida, we can count, but it really is the Treasure Coast, and I know where it is. It's more a tertiary market for those that are listening. And we have many of our clients, and always being transparent, Rich, you are a client of the Massimo Group. Many of our clients work in tertiary markets, right? We have some in New York and LA, but others work in tertiary markets. They just do. And we call them the tertiary treasures, because you can build a great life in these tertiary markets. Yeah. So, Rich, do you still have operations in Virginia?
I do have an office there. My sister Nancy works in that office, and that one's actually doing very well. We've maintained that all through the whole time. And then I opened the one here in Florida. So we have.
So you're a broker in 2 states?
Yes, licensed broker in both states, Florida.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I know you because of working with you. And we have known each other for almost 20 years, probably. Not quite, but almost. So I know you're doing something really special that most brokers need to start thinking about in Florida. You've decided that you're going to be a specialist in a tertiary market, which you generally really hear, I cannot be a specialist in a tertiary market. So can you expand on that?
Sure. I have always had a mindset that what can work or how can we make it work? And what you're hearing on most of these sort of calls and podcasts and news are interest rates are up, deals are falling apart. What am I going to do? I have nothing to do. And so I've sort of found a way to make it work, which is focusing with mainly elderly people to help them sell complicated properties, transition through a 1031 exchange into a Dollar General or a single tenant net lease property, all cash deals. And what that does, it takes interest rates out of the equation. We don't talk about it because they're older. They probably have no debt on their property. So when they sell, they're not trying to get the last nickel out of it. When they buy, it's all cash. They don't need a bank, no interest rate, doesn't even matter. So it completely eliminates that. So those deals that were crashing for other guys because of that, they don't crash for me because we don't even talk about it. Interest rates just don't matter. And so I've actually sold 3 properties this year like that. I'm going to close on another one in 2 weeks. It really helps preserve generational wealth so that when their children inherit a Dollar General, they can sell it at stepped up basis, pay no tax, or they can keep it and have the nice cash flow. So it's a 3-step process that I developed with a specialized client that's over 50. They own multiple properties and they want to transition their wealth into something other than just pay the tax and sell the property.
The true lesson here is you've identified a specific niche. I know we call them in Massimo these avatars, right? And then what their pain points are, and you found a solution, and now you're crafting a message that resonates with this audience. And that goes for anybody who's selling and leasing commercial real estate. That's what you need to do. And so you found that is a niche that can work. And I'm sure that, Rich, that model works in Virginia, it works in Florida, it works probably anywhere.
It works anywhere, any part of the country. You have older people that own complicated property. And if they leave that to their kids and the roof leaks or the elevator's broken or they need refinancing, the kids don't want that. And I got that initial idea from my coach, James Bean. I was cold calling a woman. She said, I'm just going to leave it to the kids. And I didn't know what to say. And James said, well, ask her, what if the kids don't want it? Yeah. And what are they going to do if they have to pay for repairs or if it's half empty? This model can work anywhere in the country. And it's really, especially as our population is getting older, it's going to be probably more likely to work than it was a few years ago.
I love it. Let me ask you, you were doing this for 43 years, right? 43 years. So if you were to write a book, what would be 3 key takeaways that you would say, these are the 3 greatest lessons that I would share with someone who is considering a career in commercial real estate? What would those be?
I would say, first, be really, really good at what you do. Study, learn, know your market, It's like a Bob Knackle quote, be the best guy in your market, in your business. Just really work on that. Stay up late, work hard, whatever, because that will take some upfront effort, but it's going to pay off down the road.
Mhm.
And the second thing I would say is to find a niche, find something that does work. And sometimes you have to pivot. In my career, that's not always what I'm doing now. It was something else before. It might have been leasing, but find a way to always make it work and learn how to be nimble and be able to pivot. And then the third thing is, I'm a big advocate for you. So I've had coaching with you when you first started way back. We did Vital Factors. You remember that?
Vital Fact. Oh my goodness. That's a blast from the past.
We had 12 guys on the screen or whatever.
Yes.
But I would say always be learning. So always read books. I've read, you can see behind me, this is not a fake thing. This is my real bookcase. I've read hundreds and hundreds of books, all of your books and a lot of other ones. Always be learning to be ahead of competition and be ahead of the game. And if you do those things and also be honest, you're going to have people come to you. You're going to attract them. You're not going to be trying to get the business. You're going to be attracting the people to you. And that's what I found over the years that's worked for me.
So a couple of things. I know you live by a theme of living an intentional life. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. To me, an intentional life is I wake up and I know what I'm going to do. And I actually got this from my wife. She doesn't like to wake up on Saturday morning and not know what we're going to do. She wants a plan. And so I started thinking, well, when I fly my airplane, I have a plan. I plan on where I'm going, how I'm going to get there. What kind of fuel do I need? How am I going to get back? I have a plan. And I thought I need to apply that to my life and my business. So I've actually scripted out plans. I have goals. I have specific things. So I wake up in the day and it doesn't always go on plan. It's life. Some things happen, but at least I have a plan. I know where I want to go and I know what success looks like for me. And so I have this intention every day to do all these things. I do my prospect calls. I do my marketing. I do my presence campaign. I do the things to grow this business every single day. I don't have to wake up and go, what am I going to do today? That to me, I would feel lost. So
I love that. So let's talk about the planes. How long have you been flying?
Since 2004.
Why flying?
I always, as a kid, always had model airplanes, was fascinated with airplanes. I had a client that owned a plane and I helped him buy some land and build a building. And he said, well, if you want to learn to fly, why don't you buy an airplane and then take lessons? And I thought that was backwards, but I did. I bought a plane from him and then I learned how to fly. And so I had a Cessna 172. And then in 2010, I got rid of the plane. I didn't have one for a few years. And then when I married Gail, I found out she was a pilot also. And about a year ago, we bought a Grumman Tiger 4-place airplane. So that's new plane to me, but not a new thing in terms of my life of flying.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. Okay, so you're living this intentional life, but you also mentioned your wife. And I think your wife's a very important part of this puzzle because I've had the privilege of speaking with her before, Gail. So this is part of life, right? My wife she'll never say, don't call me that. She really is the CFO of the Massimo Group. She runs everything behind the scenes. She does. I'm really good at making cash flow, but don't ask me how to create general wealth. So let's talk about cash flow. There you go. For those that can see it on the video, he just put on a hat that says cash flow. Okay. If you're listening to the podcast, he now put his cash flow on. Tell me about cash flow.
So that's my wife's nickname is cash flow because she constantly tells me, she calls me RV. She goes, RV, we need more cash flow. We bought an apartment building a year and a half ago. We upped the value by about $1 million. We created enormous wealth from that one property and we get good cash flow from it. And we have another rental property, but she's always saying, we need some more cash flow. We got to have some more cash flow. So I finally bought her this hat from Grant Cardone. And so she wears it around sometimes. But it is true. Like it is so important to have a spouse that supports you. My wife, my sister, and my mother-in-law, the three of them are my biggest cheerleaders. And it's hard. What we do is hard. It's hard to get on the phone. It's hard to have a deal crash, 6 months or 7 months. And then right before the study period ends, it's a hard business.
This is a really, really important point. If you're not married, we're going to give you some marital advice right now. I mean, Rich has been divorced. I have not been divorced. In fact, last week, I actually celebrated our 27th year anniversary. She probably wants to divorce me because of who I am, but we're still together. But a really important point. We're going to go non-real estate for a second. It's important. Rich, when we talk to prospects about our coaching program, so many prospects say, male or female, it doesn't matter. Right. Say, let me talk to my spouse.
Yep.
And so you're a student of Cardone, but I'm a student of Alex Hormozi and Cardone. I've been with Cardone. I've been with Hormozi. Hormozi would say, are you asking for permission? Mm-hmm. Or are you asking for support? Just like when they say, I need to talk to my broker. Why? Are you investing in yourself? So folks that are listening, I cannot stress enough how vitally important it is to have a spouse that supports what you're doing, especially in commercial real estate, because we talked about this. Even Gail has ideas about what we should do at the Massimo Group. Is that correct?
Yeah. Like I said, she wants to be at the next Massimo Con and get up on stage and tell the spouses of the coaching clients to, if they haven't signed up, sign up. With her, it's both permission and support because she's my CFO. And I don't spend money without talking to her. And that's why we have a lot, because if I didn't have her, we would probably be spending it all.
Amen.
So I said to her, 2 years ago, I really want to make this investment. She's like, I don't know. And I told you a lot at that time. She said, I could tell you all that stuff that Rod tells you. But in the end, she's seen a difference and she's seen what coaching has done for me and she totally supports it. So it went from kind of permission and support to now support. And if she was on this, she would say, if there's a guy or a girl out there, a woman that's on the fence, not sure, spouse maybe pulling back, she'd say, do it. Put it up there and do it.
Well, you can let Gail know that she be a Massimo coach. She just needs to get more real estate behind her anytime she wants. But I love Gail. I love it because I have the same relationship in my life. My wife, she runs the financial show in my business. That's just the way it is.
My Massimo coach, James Bean, actually loves her too because he's got me doing 50 calls a week and soon to be 100 calls a week. And so Gail says to me all the time, get in your office and make your calls. If I'm out making coffee or goofing off, she's like, go get in your office now. I'll take the dogs outside. They don't bark. You call. Make your calls. So
that's fantastic.
It's good to have a coach like that.
It is. I remember, Rich, in my first book, Tim Strange, who was a phenomenal broker. And you know Tim, because you know Tim too, because we all knew each other back in the SVN days. Back then, he had a team. He gave the team permission that if he walked out of his office to get coffee, you just mentioned it, the team could actually yell at him and say, what are you doing? You're not making money for you or for us. Get back on the phones. That's how they worked. He knew his role. His role was to be the rainmaker, just like your role in your household is to be the rainmaker, right? It's funny because a lot of times I work in the pool house where we live. We transitioned to pool house, which would be an in-law suite, which is a whole different story. So now it's my office. But I'll go to the kitchen. My wife will say, what are you doing here? Get out of here. Go back to your office. And she'll tell me that. And she's saying, go back and doing what you want to do. So what Rich and I are trying to say is you need a spouse that supports you to really, truly push you to where you want to grow. If not aligned, that could be a problem, right, Rich?
Yeah, it's an accountability partner that really helps you stay accountable to what you need to do to make the performance that we need in our life and our family. And so not having that can be the opposite. It can be really difficult. So I'm very blessed.
I agree. And we've coached thousands of brokers. We've gone through many, many divorces with our clients. We understand that it's a different perspective and different relationship. And we know what thrives and what doesn't in commercial real estate. You need a supportive spouse. Husband or wife, it doesn't matter. Needs to be supportive. Right. So let's go out the marriage counseling thing. Let's wrap this baby up. Okay. So Rich, 43-year career, 2 now offices, 1 in Virginia, both tertiary markets, 1 on the Treasure Coast in Stuart, beautiful Stuart, Florida. Major difference between Florida and Virginia from a business standpoint. What are the major differences for you?
I think the major difference is the pace is much slower. It's 3/4 time, as Jimmy Buffett said in the song, in Florida. If you call someone and say, we're having a meeting Wednesday, to them, it might be this Wednesday, next Wednesday, some Wednesday. Up in the DC market, it's like, go, go, go. There's a lot more competition. I mean, there's competition everywhere. And some of the guys like Collie Derringer's in your book, I've known for years. And those guys up there, they work, really, really hard. It's much higher paced. In Florida, it's still a good pace where we are, but it's a little bit, like I said, maybe 3/4 pace. It's also a lot of difference in terms of the demographic. You have a lot more older people here, retired people here. In Virginia, it's more younger people, career-minded people, 2-income families. So that's why I kind of shifted my focus here to working with elderly people because they own a lot of real estate. I'm 65, so I can be an elderly person too. If they're older than me, my background, my experience, I can help them like I would a parent or a relative to transition from all this mess they have into something simpler while they're still alive and something easier for their children to take on when they get it. And so it really works for me in Florida because that's where the older people live, in our market.
You just brought up a great point. While your application and theory of elderly CRE would be certainly applicable in any market where there's elderly, right? You being at the age and experience you are, would have a better time and more successful opportunity than maybe a kid starting out trying to do what you're doing. You just wouldn't work.
If you're a new to the business broker, I probably wouldn't recommend it. because you also have to be around people that are kind of like you. If you're a 30-year-old broker and you're with a 75-year-old person, I'm not saying it can't work. When I first started, I was always the young kid in the room. Everyone said, "Are you even 21?" Because I didn't shave or anything. I was so young looking, but I hustled. Now I'm the older guy in the room and help the younger kids in the business. But if I was 30 years old and new, I would go with a different approach, but find what works. That's what I would say to people. Find what works where you are. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt. Do what you can where you are with what you have. Put that together and you can create a brokerage business where you are. Don't just try to do the cookie cutter thing, because that may not be working right now. And like I said, if you can work with people where interest rates don't matter, then that just takes it out of the equation.
That's a beautiful, beautiful perspective. Interest rates don't matter. We work on cash. But before I let you go, I do have a question. First thing came to mind was, so Rich, because interest rates do come into play a little with you, because what kind of returns are we getting on the Dollar General investments?
They're 6.1, 6.2%. They're not great, in terms of, if you had a hands-on kind of property, you might get a 7, 8% cap rate, but there's almost no risk, no landlord responsibility at all.
Someone's on this podcast thinking, Rich, why don't I just take that money and put it into a 5% CD at Morgan Stanley today?
The only difference is you don't get a write-off depreciation.
Right.
With the Dollar General, you get 6.1% cash. You probably get maybe 3% equivalent of depreciation, depending on your tax. So you do get that. And then you're going to get some appreciation, but not a lot in those kind of properties. If you don't need the cash, real estate's a great long-term investment. That's what I love the most.
Hey folks, Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Group. And did you know we work with thousands of your commercial real estate peers over the past 15 years now? And we've helped them build the business and the life they've always desired. And we have programs now for every level of success, experience, and even budget. So if you're tired of living on that transaction treadmill, or living in the chaos and the whirlwind of commercial real estate, if you want more clarity, more control, and more consistency, and higher commissions, give us a call. Visit us at www.massimo-group.com. That's www.massimo-group.com, and schedule a free strategy session today. Let's talk about a little AI. Look, you're 63 years old. 65. Oh, you don't look a day over 63. So you're 65 years old. You know that we're so deep at Massimo into AI, integrating in everything we're doing. We're not seeing it being adopted in commercial real estate by brokers, frankly. But it's funny because Knackle, who you mentioned Knackle, for those who don't know, Bob Knackle is one of the top brokers in the planet. He's 61. He's so now getting deep into AI. You are. It's amazing that these legacy older brokers are saying, I get it. I see it. So Rich, what are you saying and how are you using AI?
So when I first took your course on it and started learning how to use it, playing around with it, there's two main things that I think I'd like to share with your audience that really helped me. One is in writing content. So I have an avatar that's an older person that's 50 years old or older. And so I write content for that person. But they also have stakeholders. So they have their spouse or their children. So I write content for their stakeholders, different message. And then I have content pieces for each of 4 influencers, for their banker, their lawyer, their accountant, and their financial manager. So I have content for each of those people. So when I meet them or email them or campaign, I send them, it's different messaging. You wouldn't let your mom and dad own this mess of a property and leave it to you, would you? So that's a different message. And so ChatGPT has helped me fine tune that and write better content than I could write on my own.
The message you just gave, though, beyond AI, and I love what you just did, you broke down the shareholders and stakeholders for every opportunity and how you're writing different messaging to different audiences that will resonate with those audiences. Some of the brokers are going, wait a minute, that sounds like a lot of work. And what you're saying is, it is, but using AI, it can really expedite that work product, correct?
Yeah, let's not forget all the guys out there. This is work. I mean, all these guys are going, it's too much work.
Welcome to commercial real estate. I'm sorry.
Yeah, last time I checked, they're not falling out of the trees. You have to work. So the second thing is I have some database software applications that I can download lists. So I'll download a list of 450, 500 industrial buildings, owners, everything. And I'll get like 125 columns of data. So I save that as an Excel file. I go in ChatGPT-4, I upload the file and I say, Chat, I just want their name, phone number, email address, size of the building, maybe 4 or 5 things. I don't want the tax ID number and what year it was built. I don't want all that. So I do that. I filter that down and it takes about 5 minutes. Now I have a prospecting call sheet that I use. and I just go down the list. And so I also have a VA that I hired because of 10X book, who now is taking that and they're calling all those people to verify the information, because a lot of my calls, wrong number, disconnected, whatever. So I have a VA in the Philippines doing all that for me now. So I'm going to have a list on next Monday or Tuesday of about 400 names that have been verified as the right owner in the right property.
And it's so funny, Rich. I love what you're doing. And by the way, then ChatGPT just changed it to last week from being the code interpreter to being a data analyzer. If you notice that on your chat. So now it's called the data analyzer to upload those worksheets. And if the audience listening as well, you can also do that with Claude AI upload. But everyone understands when you upload content, Rich, you know this, it is public content. Just right. Understand that it is. Although ChatGPT just announced yesterday, they're offering an enterprise solution. Now, so far, people that are using it are major Fortune 500 companies. So I have no idea what the pricing structure is. I am in the queue to find out what it is. But that gives you private portals, which I think is going to be a game changer for a lot of people. It just will be. We hope to get that too. So, Rich, this is what we did this podcast. Think about it. We talked about a wider spectrum of things we ever spoke to in the Massimo Show before. We talked about spousal relationships and how those work in commercial. We talked about country music songs. We talked about Jimmy Buffett, Eleanor Roosevelt. Yeah. It just goes on. But the key of this tertiary treasure podcast for my audience, from my perspective, this is what you should get out of it. And then, Rich, I'm going to ask you some final words. Commercial real estate works wherever you are. When I hear people live in tertiary markets, I got to do everything because there's not enough velocity. Rich is proof that you don't have to do everything. You can expand your tertiary market, but look at who you're serving and how you serve them and stick out, and you can make a really good living. In fact, an intentional life. Rich, final words.
Okay, so let's say you're in a tertiary market and there's only 300 properties in your specialty. So let's say you only get 10 of those a year. That's 30 properties. If you sold $32 million properties, that's a pretty good income for a year. So I used to tell my agents, they would cry and say, there's nobody moving, there's no volume, no velocity. And I'd say, somebody's always dying. Somebody's getting divorced. Somebody's getting married. Somebody has to expand. Somebody's contracting. There's something going on all the time. Someone's debt is coming due and they can't refinance their loan, so they have to sell. Someone's tenant moved out and they're sick and tired of it. Just pick your database, 300, 400, whatever you got, and work that and just stay on it. Just keep working it. And it might be 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, nothing happens. Pretty soon, 4 month, boom, you're going to get one. And I can tell you from just all the years, that's what it takes. You just have to grind it out, but stay focused. And you also learn more about that property type. So when you're talking to owners, you have more to say. They're going to ask you either about multifamily, about retail, what are the triple net charges? If you don't know what that means or know those things, they're not going to work with you. But if you become an expert in that niche, you can be in a small market. My whole career has been in a small market, and I've made millions of dollars. My wife wants to know what happened to it. I don't know. I've made millions and millions of dollars. She's like, where'd it go? I go, I don't know.
Because you didn't have Gail at that time. Now you have Gail. She knows where it goes.
Yeah, but you can be successful in this. I love this business. It is work. You have to focus on it. And I will close with saying, I love you, man, like the old beer commercial. I've gotten so much from the coaching. In the last 2 years, my whole life and business have gotten so ramped up from what I've been doing. I didn't know about ChatGPT. I wasn't focused on prospecting. I wasn't living an intentional life. It was random. And so I feel so much more centered and control of what's going on. I have clarity, and I'm living the best life I've ever had. And I owe a lot of it to you guys, and I appreciate the coaching very much.
Well, we love you too. Lon and I love you. You know that. So, okay, enough love going on here. Hey, folks, we learned a lot today. Look, even if you're in a major market, even if you're in New York or in LA or Chicago, there was knowledge bombs dropped all along the path today, right? So knowing isn't doing. Rich, you want to show that mug one more time for me, please?
Yeah. And also, look at my bookshelf.
Look at that bookshelf right there. For those who can't see, behind the bookshelf, knowing isn't doing. And he's carrying a mug that says knowing isn't doing. So yeah, knowing isn't doing. Understand that. You got to go out and apply what you learned today. And only when you start doing, when you start seeing the transformation, because transformation comes from implementation, not from information. Okay, folks, till next time, this is Rod Santomassimo with The Massimo Show. Hey, that's it. That's a wrap for this episode of The Massimo Show. Once again, hopefully you learned a lot of value provided by our guests, or maybe by me. But the key is this. As we say in Massimo, knowing isn't doing. So don't kid yourself. You have to go out and do the work. You have to implement what you learned if you want to get the results. And please, if you like this episode, please share it. Share it with your colleagues, share it with your friends. Heck, share it with your dog. Just share it. And we look forward to seeing you next time on The Massimo Show.